This episode is brought to you by Deep Woods Cabins. Deep Woods Cabins offers the finest in vacation getaways. Tons of people sign up for Deep Woods Cabins. So many people show up and have a great time. They swim in the lake, have sex in the bed, drink beer around a campfire, mock the silly locals, ignore all the massive warning signs, roast marshmallows over the smoldering bodies of their friends, relax in the porch swing, eat beef jerky made of human flesh, play a round of golf at the 18-hole world-class golf course. Deep Woods Cabins. We even offer competitive funeral pricing.
Is this a metal thing? Yes. Little taste.
David, what is this?
It's pretty thick.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy. I can't believe the boy's first big tits. Mistletoe alert. This is backcountry. This guy was a real jerk. How long can Ugo be pregnant? Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, you're such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso. Horror.
Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk. Your panel of expert hosts each week are Dr. Bruce Henson. Oh, wait. No, this says Bryce Hanson. It's a typo or something. Who holds
Co-host is Mrs. Doubtfire.
who holds a PhD in spookology, and me, Mrs. Doubtfire, the foremost expert in scare no-nos. You guys, we have a great show for you today. We're going to be reviewing 2003's Cabin Fever by Eli Roth's first writing and directorial full feature-length debut. But that's not all. With us today, we have a very special guest, someone I've been trying to get on the show for a long, long time. We have Brian from Horror Movie Club. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Dude, I've wanted to pick your brain for a long time. I was telling you that before we started recording, and I'm just so happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Well, before we get into the episode, let me tell you a little bit about how this is going to go down. Oh, wait, no. Actually, let me tell you about our website, horrormovietalk.com. And from there, you can find links to all of the good stuff. We got a shop. You can buy merch over there. You can support the show. You can click on over to Patreon or, shop through Amazon, the Amazon link at the top. All that goes to help make the show better each and every week. So do your best and we'll do our best, and etc. Bryce, do we have any new patrons to thank this week?
We do. We got Susan K, Jaron H, Al, Dylan P. Thank you so much for becoming new patrons this week. And actually, we got a couple patron-exclusive episodes coming out, this week if you're listening to this episode, I suppose.
Well, no, because this episode is going to be bagged for a couple weeks down.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. But yeah, definitely. There's always new stuff every week coming out on Patreon. So check it out over there. Also wanted to remind everyone, I imagine it's still going right now, our fundraiser, our charity event where we're trying to raise $2,000 for the Trevor Project that goes to help trans and LGBTQ plus IA youth. And we're almost halfway to our goal. So that's a big deal. And actually, by now, it may be even more than halfway. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But we need your help for that, and we appreciate every little bit we can get. So we post new episodes every Wednesday, so make sure to subscribe, leave us a rating, and all that jazz. If you want to get a hold of the show, call us at 682-253-4468. We'll start out this episode by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10. Y'all know how that works. And then after that, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later in this episode, I have 2 bits. One bit is going to be a game, and it's called the Rotten Tomatoes game, for those of you who are familiar. And I'm going to be pitting Bryce against Brian in a segment of the Rotten Tomatoes game, I think having to do with sickness. I forget what I called it. Down with the Sickness.
With the Sickness version.
That's going to be the name of that one. And then after that, I'm gonna close out the show with an episode of Hotline. So I'm gonna force all of you to listen to my other podcast. Okay. So as I said, we watched Cabin Fever it was on Hulu, right?
Yep.
Watched Cabin Fever on Hulu and were reminded of a simpler time when Eli Roth was allowed to make movies. Here is the trailer.
You know when you've known someone a long time and you just want to kiss them just to see if they're a good kisser or not?
There's nothing wrong with that, right? Stay.
I feel nauseous.
Well, it's not funny. Can you help me?
No. She's not coming near me.
What's your problem? You guys gonna kill each other now?
You don't look so hot. Help me. I need a doctor. I don't want to get sick. I don't want any of us getting sick.
We just don't want to get it.
I say we get out of here right now.
He's coming towards us.
All right, back off.
He looked like he was skinned alive.
Party man.
Is it safe?
Don't worry, I'm healthy.
Somebody help! I'm burning!
I can see it in my mind's eye.
All the trailers for this were not good for audio. Like, for audio trailers, it was a lot of show and not so much talking.
David, have you ever known someone for so long you just wonder what they kiss like?
Are you going to do this to me right now?
It's like, I kind of feel like there's some tension between us.
Oh,
So we're just both so curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it's there, it's there. You just know.
Don't mind me watching.
So Cabin Fever, Karen, Paul, Bert, Marcy, and Jeff are college students heading out into the, you guessed it, woods. They're heading to the woods to, you guessed it, party. They are partying at a, you guessed it, cabin. They get sick with a, you guessed it, fever, and everyone gets more cabin fever than they bargained for. With that extremely simple synopsis, you would think that cabin fever wouldn't be anything special, but you'd be wrong. Simple is often exactly what is called for, and this is no exception. Cabin Fever is writer-director Eli Roth's first directorial effort and is probably the reason he has become known as one of the modern horror greats of today. It's a movie so full of horror tropes and homages that on paper it seems like it fades into the background with every other generic horror effort. But Cabin Fever stands out. Cabin Fever stands out because it knows what's funny, and it knows what's campy, and it knows what scares you. Like, it really does scare me still to this day. I remember the first watch through, and I was like, ugh, that's gross. And I don't want, like, just people being sick and highly infectious is like, oh. And now it's, after, the last couple of years, it's extreme.
How did we not cover this during the pandemic?
Yeah,
that seems like a no-brainer.
To me, it felt a little too close to home. It was like, this is poking a sore spot, I think. No pun
in a leg.
No pun intended. We get to see Roth's early take on edgy dialogue and non-politically correct characters, which seems to draw inspiration from Tarantino's work. I've heard tale that Eli Roth worked as a gopher boy on a set for Tarantino, and that's where they kind of met each other first. So I don't know, some sort of Tarantino connection.
I think there was a story of him. I think he this might just be in my mind, but I feel like I remember an interview with him where he shared this. He talked about sharing the script of Cabin Fever with Tarantino, and Tarantino was encouraging him to go through with it.
Yeah, but it does feel, I mean, the edginess of it does feel kind of Tarantino-y to me.
Well, I mean, the dialogue's pretty natural. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. What Cabin Fever does really well is tap into people's innate fear of infection and sickness. The concepts behind this fast-moving disease are alarming and something we are now all intimately familiar with following the pandemic.
Yeah.
Being helpless in the face of the suffering and death of your friends is a truly heinous concept, and Roth is able to balance this serious terror with kind of lightness and humor in all the right ways and in all the right spots, for me anyway. As a result, Cabin Fever works its way into a fond place in any horror fan's memories in much the same way that Hostel, his second directorial effort, does.
They should come out with a sequel. Cabin Fever, Monkeypox.
They have it. It's Cabin Fever, Spring Fever.
Oh.
It's almost exactly what you just asked for.
Yeah, but it's got to be Monkeypox, because Monkeypox is the thing.
Is that the new
It's not
thing?
that far off from what we see in this movie, apparently.
What did you think about this movie, Brian?
You know, I've got mixed feelings about it, and we reviewed it on our show, but it was like 3 years ago, so it was interesting to watch again now. And I was honestly surprised that it had so many, like, corresponding elements to the pandemic. I kind of forgot. I mean, I know it's about an infectious disease, but some of the lines kind of hit home more than I was expecting. But I like it. I don't think it jumps out to me as something that is one of my favorite films. I think the biggest weakness is the characters. I'm not saying they're bad, but sometimes I get the feeling that Eli Roth doesn't really truly care that much about his characters. They're kind of just like a means to an end. Or a vehicle to make the movie he wants to make. That being said, they weren't horrible characters. The acting was pretty good for the most part. And the gore and the scares was all really effective and creepy, and there's some definitely repulsive stuff in here. So I don't know. Do you guys ever give half? I can't remember. Half
but
numbers
you
or
can.
do you whole numbers? No, I'm going to stick
Well,
to
we do it from 1 to 10, so there's decent granularity in there.
Well,
that provides enough granularity.
That's actually that's not true. I will many times say like a light
Like a high
7.
8 or a low.
Yeah,
Right,
like
sure.
a light 7 or a high 6.
I'm going to give it a light 7.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Bryce, what did you think about this one? Was this your first time viewing
This is my first time I ever saw it, so it was brand new to me. I was kind of delighted
I knew you would
because it feels so anachronistic.
Yeah.
And like the like just casual like using gay as
Yeah.
like a put down.
Like back in 2002.
Or-
exactly how it was
Right.
back then.
And so it's like I mean, this was my humor when I was 18.
Right.
This is like how me and my friends would talk, and I'm sure like that'd be horrifying to people that didn't live in a time where saying like, dude, that's gay,
Right.
is considered okay.
Right.
But it was at one time.
Yeah, everybody did it. I mean, everybody did it.
Right. So stuff like that, and like kind of just the out of the blue humor moments landed so hard for me. Like I was a big fan. In terms of like the movie, and like it's a pretty generic cabin in the woods kind of deal. It's kind of lazy at times, where it's like not. It has like stuff that comes up that they just ignore. Like the Grimm shows up, and you're just like, okay. Yeah, I expected Grimm to show up again and like have some kind of point in the story, and he never does. So stuff like that, it's like very, very messy, and it's very obvious. Like, well, this is just a like you said, Brian, like a means to an end. It's like a means to show some gore and have some cool special effects. But all in all, it was a good time. And this type of movie, it was pretty good. So I mean, I'd agree. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you saying, Brian?
A little spoilery, so I'll save it for the back end.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough. Yeah, for me, I remember seeing this I've probably seen this 2 or 3 times. Well, probably at least 3 or 4 times now, and it always just gave me that, that like real nostalgic, like. I mean, keep in mind, this came out about the same time that Wrong Turn did and deals with basically the exact same themes and tropes and stuff. And it's so much better than Wrong Turn. And yet Wrong Turn is remembered fondly by a whole nother crowd. This is just more, I guess, my wheelhouse. So I unapologetically will give this an 8. Every time I see this movie, and Paul's character, or Ryder Strong, is there from Boy Meets World, I'm like, every time. I don't know why. You don't see him in anything else. This is the only one, but every time I'm just like, it's Boy Meets World. It just has all the nostalgia attached to it. So. And I kind of figured, Bryce, that you would like this. How did you find the Hostel connection? Do you see it clearly? Because you made me watch Hostel against my better judgment, and it ended up being a delightful experience in a way I didn't expect, and it was...
Was there a Hostel connection? I didn't see it.
I mean, this is the movie he did 2 years before Hostel.
After. Yeah, I mean, I think the element of, like, sex as the danger, where it's like, it's very much feeding into, like, horny straight male, like, fantasies and having that go wrong. Like, that's definitely a part of this movie and basically the moral of the story of Hostel.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bit of that. I think Hostel's like definitely more exploitative. I mean, it's much more of a vehicle to show torture.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty similar in tone. I think Hostel was a little less lighthearted than this.
I don't know. That first half of Hostel was just light and breezy kind of.
Yeah.
But hey, before we continue, Brian, I had some questions for you.
Wait, you didn't give your score?
Oh, yeah, no, I did. I gave it an 8.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Brian, how long has Horror Movie Club been going? Because I know you've been going longer than us.
We celebrated our 4-year anniversary in June, so a little over 4 years.
Oh, wow. So we started just basically a couple months after you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I thought we were kind of going for the same amount of time.
Nice. And it's you and Ashvin, and are you able to, every episode you say you guys are calling in. And so I'm curious to know, how far away are you and Ashvin?
I used to be in North Carolina, now I'm in Minnesota, and he is in Chicago.
Oh, gotcha. Dang.
Yes. So we call each other on the phone for some weird reason. We don't look at each other, and I actually bought a light just so I could do this with you guys.
Oh, thank you.
So that's a little weird, but now that I'm doing this, I think we need to start looking at each other as well.
And what's your favorite part of doing Horror Movie Club?
Oh, boy. Honestly, so we started the podcast because we were kind of doing it already just as a way to keep in touch as friends who were, long distance friendship. Mm-hmm. And so I guess my favorite part is just talking to him about it. He's always an entertaining character and throws me some curveballs. But it's also been a really interesting journey through horror because when we started out, we thought we knew a little bit, and we're now realizing how stupid we were back then. Not that we're intelligent now, but I'm sure you guys have probably experienced something similar, right? Where you thought you knew a lot about horror, and then as the show goes, you're like, okay, now I maybe actually do know a lot about horror, but there's still so much to learn.
I listen to you guys because you're so good at putting each genre, like giving everything a subgenre. So, like, for example, this week you guys covered Jennifer's Body, or at least that's the last episode I was listening to. And I think Ashvin asked you, he's like, is there some sort of like city versus country thing going on with this? And that discussion was really interesting. And then I realized, oh, that's going on here too. Like, this is every cabin in the woods movie is doing that same thing. So you guys have this uncanny ability to like neatly place things in like definitive subgenres. And I really like that about your show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that kind of blew my mind when he said that, but yeah, he had a point. And yeah, this is totally another city versus country vibe.
Yeah, Ashvin always has these he's always got a question loaded specifically for you.
Yeah, I can never predict what's going to come either.
Yeah, I love it. Anyway, well, again, I've been listening to you guys for a long time, so kind of fanboy now here.
Yeah, me too. It's cool to see you guys live in action. It's like a well-oiled machine.
Okay. Are you making fun of us now?
No, for real. I mean, like, I'm in my closet, just junky shit all around me, and you guys look professional.
Oh, well, thanks. I'm glad we look professional to someone else. So, you guys, let's take a look at who makes this show possible. Nightchannels.com has been supporting Horror Movie Talk for well over a year now. We love what they do, and what they do is clothe your body with super cool horror shirts and hats and sweatshirts and all that kind of stuff. So head on over there, take the Night Channel challenge at nightchannels.com. And all that is just surf their site for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. I dare you to surf their site, look around, check out some of those super unique custom prints for shirts and sweatshirts and hats and stuff, and then close out of that browser. But you know what? You're
gonna find something. You're like, well, I don't need to buy a shirt now, and you're gonna close the browser. It's gonna haunt you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, okay,
and the way I know this works is because Night Channels continues to sponsor our show, even though we tell people to close out of their website. So that's how I know the Night Channels challenge works. And when you find a bunch of stuff that you like, go ahead and use the code HMT, and that'll get you 13% off your order over there. And also, you should know that if you're listening to these commercials and you hate it, you don't have to. All the commercials, every single one, can be cut out if you head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/horrormovietalk and you sign up for the $6.66 tier. You get access to the afterpods. You get early access to episodes with no commercials in them at all, and you get to support the show. And actually, there's other stuff, too. You get a card in the mail with some stickers and all kinds of crazy crap. And lots of people have been doing it, so you should do it, too. Just join the bandwagon. It's, jump off the bridge. It's good. You can also support us by buying stuff on our shop, horrormovietalk.com/shop. And if you'd like to help support Dustin Goebel, he's our resident artist, and he fucks with the best of them. And he also takes commissions for artwork from HMT fans. So contact him over at dgoebel00. That's at DGOEBEL00 on Instagram, and make your artistic dreams come true. And tell him we sent you, because otherwise he'll be like, "Who are you? Well, get off my lawn!" If you'd like to get a hold of the show, call us at 682-253-4468. Thanks again, and let's get into spoilers. That
it's pretty loud this time.
So hot.
I don't know why it's so loud.
Oh man. So, Cabin Fever is, I don't know what to say. It is a movie made of tropes, and somehow it doesn't bother me. But we start off with this fella who's clearly shot a rabbit, and he's so dumb, because he's got this rabbit and he's trying to wake up his dog, by dangling the rabbit over the dog, and the dog's not waking up because it's clearly very dead.
It's like entrails are already spilled across the forest, and he's like, wake up, buddy.
Come on, Floofy. And Floofy's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the indicator of there's something foul afoot in these woods. And then, we immediately cut to partying college kids in a Bronco or whatever, getting ready to,
I think at one point they say the Jeep, and it's obviously not a Jeep.
This is one of those things you call...
it's one of those things where it's like...
Kleenex.
It's in the script. Don't worry about it.
What's that, Brian?
It's like a Kleenex. You just call it a Jeep.
Right.
There's a word for that. Can't remember it.
A Kleenex?
Yeah.
Yeah, when a brand name becomes the name of the thing, even though it's off brand.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's a word.
Right, like Coke. Like, give me a Coke. Some people say, get me a pop. Or, like, what? How did you call
Even
it?
Zoom now. People say you're going to Zoom somebody regardless of what app you're using.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
What was the question?
What was the thing that you called it as a kid? The Coke, pop?
We called it pop in Akron, Ohio.
Pop in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah, I think I would say pop.
The pop belt?
Maybe.
That's the pop, the rust belt and the pop belt.
Right.
I say soda now, though, for some reason.
I say soft drink.
Yeah, I always said soda. You did not say soft drink.
I actually don't remember how I say it.
I always said soda or Coke.
Yeah.
I
think I would just say the name of the thing that I wanted. It's like, can you get me a root beer? You know?
Okay. Well, so look at you. Anyway, so Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World. Oh boy! Every time I see him, I'm like, but I haven't seen him in anything really since this, which is a little bit of a bummer.
Wasn't there a Boy Meets World like reboot or something? Or maybe I just heard of talks.
No,
that they're like, maybe we'll bring it back when he's older.
It's probably a thing that happened. Remember when Netflix rebooted?
There's been
that thing with Bob Saget. What's that thing with Bob?
Full
Saget?
House.
Full House.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I imagine every single '90s sitcom actor's ears perked up, all in unison.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been talk of a lot. I think there's been some remakes, but yeah. Maybe Boy Meets World wasn't one of them. Boy Meets World was like just past when I stopped watching like TGIF on ABC.
You stopped watching TGIF?
Yeah, I mean,
I watched it until it stopped.
Right? Yeah, run it into the ground.
Yeah, I think.
Are we the same age?
I'm 40. I just turned 40.
I'm 38.
I am also 38. Well.
All right.
How old am I? I'll be 38 in a little bit.
Yeah.
In a couple days.
Yeah, I guess Bryce got over TGIF before us.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was my favorite pastime as a millennial, or as I call myself a exennial, is recounting the lineup of Disney Afternoon and TGIF over time. I was like, all right. Originally, it was Gummy Bears, and then
Gummy Bears. Oh my
Tailspin.
God. Wait, there was a show called Gummy Bears?
Yeah, on Disney Afternoon.
I thought you were talking about Care Bears.
No, there's Gummy Bears. Gummy Bears bouncing here and there and everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
Something deep within David awoke, and you just never heard of that show. Gummy Bear
bouncing here and there and everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's the show that my uncle raped me to.
Oh God,
I just hit it.
Deep within.
Yeah, TGIF and Disney Afternoon was a required viewing growing up.
Okay.
But yeah, once Boy Meets World came on, I was like, all right, enough of this.
Man,
moving on.
Now I'm just back at that place. That horrible Gummy Bears place, this prison.
I want to keep talking about this, but I'm like, I shouldn't derail these guys' podcasts. Let's stay on topic.
No, by all means.
Derailing is welcome.
That's the whole podcast is derailing.
Yeah. Right, derailing.
Gummy Bears is David's sunken place.
Right. I think Jordan Peele would make some sort of creepy remix of the Gummy Bears theme song for David's movie.
Just a slow Gummy Bears.
With just like intermittent shots of his uncle's face in the sunken place.
That's his calling card now. Like he just does it for each and every movie. He did it. Yeah. He did it for every single one.
I mean, that's like,
you can keep doing it.
Yeah, it works so well.
That's almost every movie trailer now. That's not just him.
Right.
Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Every single movie trailer is like some 90s hit slowed down.
In a minor key.
Yeah. Anyways, so I'm envisioning David falling asleep at night, crying to himself while singing the Gummy Bears theme song. So, we get these college kids get to the Harbinger gas station, right? So this is the place that you kind of get an inkling of what's going to happen. It's not going to be good. And this is also a spot in the movie that is potentially going to make a lot of people shit or get off the pot. Because, I mean, they're throwing around colloquialisms of the time. I mean, they said the G word and the R word
and the N word. Like, this is so Eli Rothy is just like, I'm going to say the thing that's not allowed to be said. I'm not going to be politically correct, and you can't make me. And how does that hit you? I'll ask Brian first. How does that hit you now? Because it would have hit you a little bit back in the day, I imagine. But how does it hit you now?
Yeah, I mean, it's cringy. I think it's so interesting because we always talk about that on our show when we watch an old movie. Like, oh, they said this word, G word, F word, whatever. And but it's also interesting to hear Bryce's take on it. Like, it's a throwback to another time. Like, I can't sit here and pretend that I didn't talk that way when I was 18 as well. So it is conflicting for me because even if you look back at movies from 2003, they're not all like that. It's like Eli Roth is really trying to push the limits, and he keeps doing it. I think Green Inferno's, I can't remember what the year that is. I want to say it's as recent as like 2013 or something.
It's 15.
Yeah.
2015?
I believe so.
And he still does it in that movie too. So it's clearly just him. I mean, but it's some combination, right? He's trying to get a glimpse of how people actually talk, but he's also clearly trying to push the limits of what is politically correct and play with that, especially with the N-word thing and how it comes back around in the end of this movie. He's just like middle fingering to the audience.
It was comforting that at least the N-word was still offensive back then, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the characters were scared. And also, you know, it wouldn't be out of place even now if you went to a really remote part of the country and there's locals that clearly are have a different culture than you, then sadly it wouldn't be unusual for them to say that.
Well, here's the thing about like using the word gay. Like, I'm almost, well, first of all, like, it was part of my youth using it in this way, which basically means gay equals lame. It did, when we said like, oh, that's gay, it just means that's lame, and we weren't thinking about like, oh, that's something homosexuals would do. It's like it wasn't used that way,
right?
And so when I see movies that use it like that, I don't cringe too much because I understand the usage, the context. What's more alarming for me is that's more like disturbingly anachronistic is when they're like, oh, what are you, gay? Like when they're actually like, like, oh, like, why aren't you in like a teenage rom-com or something? She's like, the girl hasn't had a boyfriend and she dresses kind of mousy and like, oh, I think she's gay. And it's like said with just casual disdain. That is disturbing. And that's like as like you know, bad as like when you see old films talking about, you know, N-words or whatever. And so, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just, it was confusing to me. Like, I don't know. It just Yeah, in the context, it doesn't bother me that much. But I'm sure if I was gay, it would mean something quite a bit different.
Yeah, that usage is different than one of the characters in this movie calling squirrels gay.
Right.
Squirrels are gay.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. Give me just one moment here.
Bert, what the hell is that?
Huh? Oh, I'm gonna go shoot some squirrels.
Why would you want to kill squirrels?
Because they're gay?
Bert, don't be a fucking retard.
I'm kidding. I don't care if they're gay or straight. I'll kill them either way.
Will you be careful with that thing?
Would you relax, man? It's just a fucking BB gun. Relax. Sorry.
Bert doesn't care if they're gay or straight. He'll kill them either way. This is the kind of thing where it works because it's funny. So it's kind of undeniable, but I don't know. I think a lot of people will definitely take issue with this.
Yeah.
But it's...
I mean, a lot of packed in there, like in 30 seconds. What are you, fucking retard?
Yeah, it's like, whoa. Yeah, and I think a lot of the reason that Eli Roth is allowed to or can get away with this stuff is because it's packaged just right. Mm-hmm. Like the cute old man at the little Harbinger grocery mart gas station is so sweet, and he's telling these kids about, you know, the last person who bought like a glass vase off the shelf and she fell down because she was just so verklempt or something like that, and then he and then they're like, oh yeah, what's the gun behind the counter for? And he's like, oh, that's for N-words. And it's like, everybody's just, even these characters' jaws are on the floor, indicating that, oh, this is too much for us. And then he somehow he realizes that it was too much. And so, like Brian said, in the end, that's the callback joke.
Yeah.
At the very end of the movie. And that, I mean, how did the callback joke at the end of the movie work for?
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
It all kind of fit into context. It was like Eli Roth was holding his hand up to his mouth and going, "Oops, I used a bad word." What did you think about it, Brian?
I think it was a little, I didn't like hate it, but I had a little bit of like a palm on the forehead moment. Like, oh, come on. I think it just like, and I totally respect your guys' take on it too. It just like bothers me how much Eli Roth is trying to like do that in every one of his movies. Yeah. So maybe if I was taking this outside of the context of some of his other films, I would, and not that it like bothers me. It's just more of a groan moment than a laugh out loud moment for me.
No, I think you have a real point here. I think he got maybe one too many attaboys on this movie, and that just concreted him into a lane. He was like, sure. I got to be clever with the N-word. I got to, it's like, now I shown I can do it once, I can do it again. And it's like, maybe you could branch out a little bit. Right. Maybe they don't now have to be super cheap shock jock jokes.
Yeah, I mean that's like, that joke is straight out of Mel Brooks. That's like a very Mel Brooks delivery, especially at the end, where it's like, oh no, the black people showed up and he's going to go for the gun. And then it's like, waka waka.
No, it's for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, So I guess at this point, the kids are out of the cabin. They're having their good time. And then, here's, I think, what Brian might have been referring to about, at least one part of what you might have been referring to about characters he doesn't really care about them too much. We have Eli Roth shows up as a character, as Grimm, and he is the broiest, kind of pothead surfer guy, like just kind of it's a strangely just generic person from 2001, just like this guy, this frat.
I don't know what the intent of that guy was, because it was like presented menacing, but he was harmless, and then you expect him to be menacing in the end, and he just disappears.
Right.
Never comes back.
What did you think about Eli Roth's little stunt?
It was funny because he played two characters in the movie all within this like little 10-minute chunk of the movie. But I actually like this because he had one of the funniest lines in the movie for me. He like talks about I think his dog's name is Doctor something. Mm-hmm. And one of the girls goes, "Is he a doctor or a professor?" He's like, "Yeah, he's a professor of being a dog." And
Face.
Face.
Here, actually, it's funny you should mention that.
Yeah. He's cool. This is Dr. Mambo. Here, boy.
Dr. Mambo.
Come on, Dr. Mambo.
He's a doctor, like a physician or a professor?
Yeah, he's a professor.
Of being a dog? Ooh, faced.
That's pretty good.
It's so ridiculous. But I'm going to posit something here real quick. This is the most clear indicator to me that Eli Roth is just a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. Because he's going to insert himself and his bad acting into the movie that he's directing. He's just gonna sandwich it in there, you know? And it's like, oh, that's a very Quentin Tarantino thing to do. Does you think that holds any water?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just an indicator of goofiness. Like, that's kind of where I appreciate a lot of the humor is like, I appreciate like kind of relatively low effort, goofy humor in the context of a semi-serious movie. And, yeah, it just works for me.
Brian, do you think my Quentin Tarantino line holds any water?
I think it does hold water. And not only that aspect of it, I had never really thought of these two like as a pair in my mind, but they're both such fans of movies and have like this encyclopedic knowledge of so many movies that most people probably have never heard of. And I think you can see it in both of their work because, as you said, David, this is a tropey movie. It's a cabin in the woods movie, and it hits those tropes. And Tarantino does that too, but you can tell they love those movies so much. They're just trying to rebuild like what they loved about movies as a kid. And I think that's a strength and a weakness, right? Because I think the weakness is you get the characters that are kind of a means to him making the movie he wants to see. But he also plays with the genre. The tropes are there, but they're still kind of treated with care, and the scares are legit. I don't really know what my point is, but I think they're clearly people making movies that love movies, and they just want to put something on the screen that ignites something in them that they thought of when they first saw a horror movie in a dingy theater somewhere when they were a kid or a teenager or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I know Eli Roth has a pretty impressive podcast about horror movies. Have you ever listened to that?
Yeah, I do listen to that from time to time. It's really interesting.
Yeah, he definitely is. I think that's a good point. He is like this Encyclopedia Britannica of horror movies, and that's, yeah, he's definitely a student of just being a kid sat in front of the TV going, this is awesome. I need to, like how you hear Spielberg talk about, how his childhood was, sitting there just watching the movies, being so enraptured by them. So once Grimm shows up, he brings a bunch of weed and it sets up this next part, which is there's been this plague spreader guy, this guy from the start of the movie who killed the rabbit, and he kind of came into contact with Bert earlier, and he was stumbling around, and he was clearly infected with something, and Bert had the knee-jerk react. Bert is just a total jerk. He's everything you love to hate about jocks.
I think Bert's my favorite character in the movie.
Why is that?
Just because he's so stupid.
He's so stupid, and he's the person you're supposed to hate, right?
Yeah.
But
he's the one having the most fun.
Oh, yeah. He's
ostensibly on a trip that they're trying to have fun at.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, it almost makes me wonder if like he was actually inspired by Bert Kreischer. Feels like a very similar character.
Actually, it does. Yeah, he's lighting large portions of the forest on fire just to have a chuckle. He's killing squirrels because they're gay, but he doesn't really care if they're gay. Like, he'll kill them either way. Like, anyway, but strangely enough, Bert's reaction to this infected man is the spot-on reaction that you should have if you want to survive. So that's kind of interesting because... So anyway, so this man shows up at their cabin. They answer the door because they assume it's Eli Roth come back to party, and it's not. It's the plague spreader dude, and Bert's like, "No, we're not letting this guy in. You have to be out of your mind. Send him out. He'll be fine. He's dead anyway. Like, no, we don't mess around with this." And they end up burning him to death.
As one does.
But not before he vomits blood all over their car.
Right.
And he just, he makes quick work of dispensing the infection around their cabin.
Yeah, I love the movie logic of like, oh no, he's in our car. He's going to try to get away. Let's shoot the car.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the other movie where that happens, but I can't remember what it was. I kept thinking of Tremors or Tremors 2, but I don't think.
Yeah, every time there's like the very obvious answer is drive away. It's like, oh, we got to fuck up the car somehow.
Yeah. The car becomes the point of contention in this whole thing. Like, we can't leave. The car's here, and it's like. I think you can leave.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Were there any parts of this kind of, were there any parts of this middle spot where they start getting infected that irked either one of you guys?
I think just as you guys were touching on, the decision making from the characters just is pretty poor. Like, they don't seem to sincerely want to get out of, like, they're not trying hard enough to get out of their situation. They're just so fixated on the fact that the car doesn't work and they're stuck here, but clearly they're not that far away from civilization, so they could figure something out.
Yeah.
I feel like the subtext is that two of the guys are pretty sure that they're going to be fucking these girls for the next couple days, and they're like, yeah, I mean, infectious disease, and like, we just killed a guy. Maybe we should tell someone, but we were going to get our dick sucked like a minute ago, and we could just go back to that. So, like, yeah, I'm almost wondering if there's, like,
it's weird.
The character's motivation. Eli Roth, like, came back to the guys, like, all right, here's your motivation. You can go commit to, a felony and probably spend the rest of your life in jail. Or, hear me out, your character gets their dick sucked for another 2 days.
It's like, The weirdest part about this is it's strangely realistic. It's like, I remember being, 20 and being like, oh man, what I wouldn't do. Anything for sex, anything. I would die. And then, it's not that far removed from what happens in this movie where they're like, but sex though. And...
Well, what are we gonna do? Should we hide the body? Should we go get the police? Should we kiss? I don't know. What are we gonna do? Should we get naked? I mean,
yeah, we should get naked. And there's I noticed that this disease almost wants to cuddle, which makes it so much grosser. I think in my notes I wrote, "The fuck disease wants you to cuddle," And okay, and then to add to the awkwardness of this whole thing, so kind of the protagonist in this whole thing is Ryder Strong, right? And he's the quote good guy, right? And so you're along for a ride with him, and then he basically, and he's like got the hots for this girl. And, she's kind of leading him on, or not super interested in him, but a little interested in him. And she's, giving off signs. And then she falls asleep and he just kind of rapes her. Is that what you guys saw too?
Oh yeah, I mean, no question. This is probably one of the most like Gen Z would be like shocked at this scene.
I didn't remember it being this way.
A girl asleep. It's a victimless crime if I finger rape her.
It's like, yeah. How did this strike you, Brian?
Same way, and I also forgot about it. But when earlier on, maybe like 10 minutes before this, they were kind of like laying on a dock and sleeping almost next to each other, at least laying with their eyes closed, and there was an aerial shot. And it really made me think of the Creepshow 2 sketch called The Raft.
Yes.
You guys ever seen it?
Yes.
And then I forgot that this scene was coming, and that also happens in The Raft, like a sleeping sexual assault, low-key. And I couldn't help but wonder if it was like an homage somehow. I wouldn't be surprised if Eli Roth tried to do that.
Oh man, that is such a cool parallel. I saw Creepshow 2 a couple years ago because I watched it because we had reviewed the first one, and I just thought the first one was so much fun. And I watched Creepshow 2 and was specifically about, so Creepshow is an anthology, and it has a couple different stories in it, right? And Creepshow 2 is as well. Specifically, the Raft story that you're talking about, Brian, irked me so badly. I was so upset that this, like, it was like a half-hour long scene from the original Star Trek with just this low effort, low budget monster of like a spray painted towel on a lake. And yeah, like kind of a weird rape scene. And I was like, this is the sequel to one of the best anthology movies ever made. Were you a fan of Creepshow 2?
I was. I actually, all sexual assault aside, I really enjoy the Raft sketch. But I do like Creepshow too. But yeah, Creepshow I love it. So it doesn't compare, but it's still pretty good to me.
I didn't mean to cast shade on one of your favorites. Did you, by chance?
No, that's okay.
When did you first watch Creepshow 2?
Again, similar to you, probably a couple years ago, maybe for the first time.
And what was the thing that you liked about it?
Well, I just love anthologies. I'm kind of a sucker for them. It's hard for me to not like an anthology, especially one that's a little bit silly, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, almost like fourth wall breaking. I just like Creepshow kind of set that mold, and I think of it as the template for an anthology. So any jokey, fun anthology I'm here for.
Do you have a favorite short out of the first one?
The first Creepshow?
Yeah.
Oh, man, good question.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'll go first. I really liked the Moss one with Stephen King and Jordy Verrill. That one.
Oh, you done it now, Jordy Verrill? You monkhead.
I love that one so much. It's so colorful, and it's such a creepy concept, but it's executed so goofily.
Yep. I think the Happy Birthday one, or Father's Day, I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah,
I think it was birthday.
I think it was a birthday because there was a cake, right?
Yeah, there was a cake. I think that might be my favorite.
Yeah, that was the first one in that anthology, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this girl on the raft, or like the floating dock thing.
Karen.
Is it
unfortunately named Karen?
Unfortunately named Karen. Is it? Would it be politically correct to say that she's a tease?
Yeah.
Is that possible to say, like, this girl is definitely toying with this boy?
I guess. I mean,
because she kisses him and then rolls off. She's like, tee bye. Like, oh, man.
Oh, what? She's not allowed to kiss and then run away?
Not unless she wants to get sleep raped, I guess.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, he does. Well, you bring up a good point.
Them's the rules.
Because that's actually what happens. So that's a good point.
I mean, early 2000 rules are different. I mean, it was just an unspoken understanding.
This moment where he just kind of takes her silent sleeping as consent is, first of all, very creepy. But it's made creepier by the fact that...
they cut out the part where he got consent. He was like, hey, you want to have sex? And she goes, and that meant yes.
That's not how it works, Bryce. You know that, right?
She said,
no, they cut that part out, though.
Right.
So
it's in the deleted scenes.
So this part is made all the more gross because as he's, like, reaching down her skirt, you're treated to...
You hear wet noises.
Some audio. And it is revealed that is actually pussy legions.
It's revealed that he has absolutely no idea where the vagina is on a woman's body. That's what's revealed. It's like, there's one thing not knowing where the clit is. There's another thing thinking that the vagina is an opening on the side of the leg.
Look, he was committing basically a crime. He was probably pretty nervous.
Right.
He was actually committing a crime. So, yeah, I can understand being a little nervous. But this is definitely one of the two nastiest, grossest parts of this movie. Without, like, this is now on my, like, second or third watch through, I'm like, there's even an added element that I didn't realize, like I was saying. I didn't realize that this was him basically raping her.
Yeah.
So now it's just super ultra gross.
Right.
I don't know. How did this scene hit you, Brian?
It is, I mean, the sound design. The sound design always gets me, whether it be a gore or a sex scene. It can even be a sex scene that I'm like, ooh, I'm into this. And if there's too graphic of sound design, I'm just, ugh. Yeah, this was gross.
Fair. Yeah, how did it strike you? How did it strike you, Bryce? Is that your answer? Porn music?
Yeah, I mean, it was like pretty cringeworthy, you know, for the time. Also, I like the implied, the first horror is that not that she's infected, but it's implied that, like, oh my God, she's on her period. Disgusting. Oh, it's just a hole on her leg. Never mind.
Phew.
That's the true horror, you know.
Yeah, I think, did I write that down? Whoa, that's a lot of blood. Yeah. And then the reaction to that is put her in the shed.
Immediately.
You gotta put her in the shed. We gotta get her out, lock her in. And she's like, guys, I'm gonna die out here. I'm going to die out here in the shed. And their words of reassurance were, don't worry, you're gonna be locked in here.
Right.
Like, we're going to lock you in. Nothing's getting in here. She's like, no, I'm going to die to the disease, asshole. And they're like, no, we're going to stand guard. It's always going to be somebody out here standing guard. And then they immediately don't do that. So she's just alone, locked in a shed in the out of doors. Ugh. Let's see here. Bert continues to say, to just throw these horrible zingers out there, but you know, they have to be played. This is for the show.
Bert, you asshole, it's not funny.
Yes, it is, you fucking slut.
Jeff.
What?
Jeff. What? You can't deny that it's funny dialogue executed really well.
Right.
Despite how troubling it is.
Turns to her boyfriend. He just called me a slut. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Are we just ignoring the fact that you're a slut?
Jeff, yeah, and Jeff shows his true colors here. He nopes on out. Like,
right.
when things get as bad as they can get, Jeff shows his true colors, and he says, you two fucking fuckers can't stop touching her so you can rot. I was like, that's a kind of a Quentin Tarantino-y kind of line. Fucking fuckers. A bunch of F words all in a row. And let's see here. we're kind of introduced to this cop. I'm interested to see, what did you think about this cop, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another goofy character to throw in there. I didn't really feel strongly one way or another, really.
Okay, Brian, did you have any feelings about the cop?
Yeah, I feel like I enjoyed the placement of these goofy characters more than Bryce. I think he's just like, he's almost spoofing teen, like, sex comedies in his horror movies.
That's
so
true. Yeah,
it's kind of like, why not? Why not give us this cop? I think one of these guys, or maybe two of them, were in a movie called Detroit Rock City.
Oh yeah, I think the cop is right.
I think he might be, and I know Bert. I think Bert might be too, but my memory is shaky on that. But that's the type of movie I feel like he often kind of spoofs. Like, he hates college teenagers looking to have sex, and he makes them his characters, and he kind of rips on them. Actually, I think it's really interesting what Bryce said about sex being the treachery in this and Hostel. Like, that's a good observation. I never thought about it that way.
See, I view it as like, he doesn't have disdain for him. That's his horror. It's like, if you're a horny guy that you're like, I'll do anything to have sex when you're at a certain age, like, you would commit war atrocities if, like, your girlfriend said, like, if you commit war atrocities, I'll let you see my boobies. Yes.
Can you imagine a reality where she's like, only after you commit genocide? And you're like, all right,
you gotta go burn down a village and then we can do it.
Well, this is also a super 90s sort of take, because the whole 90s was, I mean, just like freaking kids out about safe sex. Like, just being like, you have to wear a condom. Number one, pregnancy. Number two, AIDS. Holy shit. You can get all kinds of different diseases. Mm-hmm. Like, freak out about safe sex. And we did. But it's interesting because I listened to a lot of Dr. Drew, and, for better or worse. And one of the things that he says is when people ask him, like, you know, you've been doing this a long time, you've been answering questions about sex for a long time, like, what are the trends that you see going up and maybe going down? And he all the time now, he says, kids no longer are taught about safe sex because we hammered it home so hard for the 90s and early 2000s that I think that generation took it as just like basic common knowledge. Like, it's just so ingrained in our brains that we go, everybody knows that, and then don't feel the need to continue passing it on. Because he says kids now, like the Z kids, they don't have that same feeling at all about safe sex. So I feel like this is weirdly dated in terms of its...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's when we were growing up, like, AIDS was like a death sentence.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's the danger, is like, if you have sex unprotected and get AIDS, like, you are going to die. But now it's like, I mean, it's still a horrible disease that you don't want to get, but it's not a death sentence. Like, you can live a pretty long life with, like, the treatments that are available
in America. And
so, like, what is the danger for kids to have unprotected sex? It's like, well, number one, it's they just don't want to get pregnant. So, you know, there's other options to, like, you know, not be pregnant other than a condom, you know?
Yeah.
So that's probably a big part of it. But yeah, I think a huge, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry, Bryce. I think the script was written in 1995 originally. So
okay. Yeah.
Oh, dang.
That could match up with what David's saying about this feeling a little 90s and that sex stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, hey, Brian, did you get to see that? I think it was an HBO documentary about Woodstock 99.
No, I'd like to watch that. I've never seen it, though.
I think Bryce did. Didn't she, Bryce?
I didn't. I think it's probably the same. I've seen a couple documentaries pop up about Woodstock 99, which, I mean, I remember it going on.
I do too. Let me tell you, it's like a parallel version of this movie. It's disturbing and alarming, and a lot of, like, quote unquote toxic masculinity, and it is, a lot of,
I think, like,
problematic youth.
From what I don't know, maybe I'll watch the documentary, but my sense of Woodstock 99 was, well, what I remember it was, they're trying to recreate Woodstock, which was, during the free love movement and like all this stuff. And so like it was our generation trying to recreate a culturally significant event, but in essence they don't have a strong philosophy. They're just kind of a bunch of nihilists. And they show up and basically Limp Bizkit has a performance that goes awry in the crowd, and that's like what is the takeaway is like, they burned a lot of stuff because of Limp Bizkit.
You got to watch the doc. It's a lot more interesting than just that, but yeah, it did have vibes like this movie does.
Yeah,
where it's like things are going south here. So at this point, we start getting into the real gore of this thing. You have Karen out in the shed who basically this disease. Let's talk about this disease for a minute. This disease is kind of like a wasting disease. It feels kind of like
it's like a super rash.
Yeah, like
that opens up into open wounds.
Feels like even more weaponized MRSA or something like that. I don't know how did the disease of the whole thing strike you?
Yeah, I thought of it as like a flesh-eating bacteria or something. And I think it was really cinematically effective. I can't think of many other diseases that would have been so gross to watch unfold on screen. You got people losing chunks of their skin and barfing blood. Pretty effective.
Oh, man. I remembered something that I wanted to talk about.
Oh.
This made me have flashbacks of a disease I had.
What?
Once, yeah.
Well, go on.
So this is the weirdest thing, and it's like, I still don't know quite what happened, but like, I had this open sore on the top of my foot.
Was this when the water damage happened?
No, this was when I was younger. This was like, I was probably 16, 17. So it started out, this could be a horror movie. This is like, so it started out like I had this like itch between my toes, like between my big toe, and I was like itching it. And it's one of those itches where you're like, God damn it, I just need to get it. And you're like rubbing it so hard where it's like, itching it only makes it want more itching to the point where
that pain itch, where it's very satisfying pain.
And it's like, God damn it. And then eventually it like breaks the skin. You're like, okay, but somehow that's the best possible scenario of like, yes, I finally destroyed my body enough to where now it's going to repair itself, like, well, now I just feel pain and not an itch.
It's a weird place to go with this.
Right. So, and then like the top of my foot started getting like spots on it.
Okay.
Like little dots of red. And I was like, so weird. And so I'd like put, stuff on it, like cortisone cream or whatever I had.
Aspirin, whatever.
And it's this nightmare scenario to where my body just would not heal. And those spots turned into open sores until the entirety of my foot was covered in this like pussy red grossness.
I want to leave. I want to leave right now. I don't like being in the same room with you, even though this Brian's out of here. He's like, I'm gone.
And it spread over to my other foot. It was like, it got to a point where like I had like paper towels on the top of my feet to soak up the pus that was coming out. And, it would dry out and I'd be like, okay, maybe it's getting better. And then I'd walk somewhere and it would like crack open and then all this get worse. Went to an urgent care and they like gave me this antifungal stuff to put on it and I like caked it on and then it would the pus would seep through the lotion. It went on for weeks. Like I was like basically, it was during the summer, I remember, and I had just started working at my dad's store.
Yeah.
And so like my sister still rags on me for like, yeah, you didn't show up for your shift. I'm like, my goddamn foot was an open sore. Anyways.
Well, welcome to Horror Movie Talk, Brian. Thank you for coming.
And it reminded me. It reminded me of the sores and stuff on this movie. The end of the story is I went to a dermatologist. He gave me a cortisone shot, and it like recovered immediately. Like 2 days.
That's a steroid?
Yeah, in like 2 days, it was like almost completely gone.
Wow.
It just cemented my appreciation for specialists. I'm like, oh, doctors don't know shit unless they're specialists in the thing. Like,
well, wait, you said something at the end there. I didn't get that. Doctors don't know shit unless they're a specialist.
Yeah, I've never had like a general or family care practitioner that helped me ever with the thing that was ailing me.
Get a better general. I have my GP's great. He every time. Well, one time I asked him to feel my balls. He did it.
I guess
he was like, "Yeah, that's alarming. We need to get you in for an ultrasound."
Yeah, and send you to a specialist for.
Well, sure, but you got to get the referral.
Yeah,
there's a system in place.
Well, yeah, I mean that is the system. It's like they're the gatekeeper for the person that actually knows how to treat what's wrong. But you have probably normal ailments, and I have like a alien foot disease that no one else I have ever heard has.
Since we're doing this, I mean, this is basically the skin disease.
The skin disease episode. You had good skin disease stuff.
I used to I used to work in very hot conditions for a while as a wildland firefighter, and then I got sent to some mines in the Sahara and stuff like that. So I ended up getting a lot.
Called it a mine.
A mine. I ended up getting some pretty impressive rashes. Some that I can't get rid of. I had a rash from going to the Sahara one time that was it was my whole butt. Like my whole butt. And it had gotten pretty far, and it was ripping. And it was an uncomfortable, it was not good. It was not pretty. I got to a doctor and he was like, "Holy God." And ever since then, he's just been like,
"There's so much hair."
And ever since then, he was like, he was like, I've treated like Vietnam War vets who lived in the jungles of Da Nang, who have less shitty rashes than you. He's like, I give you the heaviest, dutiest stuff. Can't squash it.
Yeah.
What about you, Brian? Any rashes?
Yeah, I'm like, shit, I should have come more prepared. I should have gotten a really gnarly rash in the weeks leading up to this. No, I don't have anything good like that. My butt's been pretty healthy. Knocking on wood.
How are your feet?
But my feet are not pretty, but they're technically healthy.
Amen, brother.
But poison ivy was probably my biggest and gnarliest experiences. I'm hyper allergic to it, and I used to get it many times every summer, and it was the itch you guys are talking about, like that where you can't stop and the pain actually feels good is very familiar to me, but never had the open sore thing. Thank you for sharing that, Bryce.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I feel like we're unearthing a lot of repressed stuff.
I could go into detail and like tell you exactly what it looked like, and I remember it so vividly.
You could just go watch Cabin Fever and probably get a lot of what's going on.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, my dad's allergic to like poison oak. Yeah, it is not pretty to see someone who is allergic to poison ivy, poison oak. Does your throat start closing up?
No, luckily I'm not that bad. It's just like either I'm hyper allergic to it or I was just rolling in it as a kid and not realizing it, because we had woods in our backyard and I was always out there doing shit. So it would just cover an entire patch of like my whole forearm at one point was covered in it. So nothing compared to your guys' stuff, but that's all I can bring to the table.
The gnarly thing about that is it's an oil that sits on the leaf. So the way I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, is if you're like scratching that spot a lot and then you just like go to like touch your face, you can transfer it onto your face. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I've read mixed stuff on it. Like I think I always used to hear like the pus spreads it, which is not true. But if the oil from the plant is still on your arm, then yeah, you can spread it. And I think it's kind of hard to get off without like a really good scrubbing or treatment.
Yeah, it's rough. What's it called? Like they have that medicine for it. I can't remember the name of it. Something tech. Anyway, so yeah, these practical effects are pretty great. I kind of really love the it's almost like the cover of Evil Dead 2, the skull on the cover of Evil Dead 2, whereas all of her lips are just gone off of her teeth. And that moment still sticks with me from the first viewing of this movie, just being like, oh no, this is very, very bad. And then we have our protagonist turned rapist, Ryder Strong, heading out up to the reservoir. And he finds the body of the plague spreader dude in the water, and instead of just looking at it and going, "That's a dead body,"
he's holding his breath a long time.
He for some reason feels the need to poke him with a stick and then fall into the reservoir.
Sure, David. That's like the bridge too far. Is like, oh. You don't poke a body with a stick. A dead body with a stick. It's like, no, that's exactly what you do.
I mean,
every molecule in my body, if I saw a dead body in a stream, I would have to poke it with a dead stick.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Brian's nodding.
Wow.
No?
Even
I'm the only one?
I don't know. I wasn't really nodding in agreement. I was just nodding in awe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think I'd want to poke it. I think I'd go run. Do you think he was wanting to spin it around to see if it was the guy who they encountered earlier and set on fire?
I guess that's probably the.
See, I assume you just want to poke it with a stick, which I totally understood and was on board with.
Boy, you're just on
an innate desire.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Yeah, I just was like, oh well, there's a dead body in the water supply, like. This is what's getting us all sick. Like,
right.
Which is an added element of super grossness. Like, and by the way, here in Portland, like a strangely on the nose kind of thing. We have these reservoirs in Portland that are just open air reservoirs. And then like this will happen. Like a squirrel will die and fall into the water and they'll have to drain like 10 billion gallons of water out of these massive open. Not to mention like, all the homeless people like camped around them,
right?
Like all the time. So this is a regional problem.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the spring or the stream that they're just directly pumping water from into the cabin, like didn't seem like it was a great water source, to be honest. It was like already full of pond scum before there was a dead body in it.
It was a simpler time.
Water.
I found myself becoming curious, and actually, Brian, this might be a more of an East Coast thing. I've never seen a cabin like this. There's just no cabins out here on the West Coast that look like this. Is this a thing?
Boy, that's a good. Just like a rustic old cabin.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think they exist.
Have you ever stayed in one?
I'm confused. You've never seen a What about the cabin?
Like this super generic horror movie trope, Evil Dead, cabin in the woods cabin, that's like, it's got a porch swing and this kind of thing. It seems like there's a million of them because this movie exists in a million different iterations, but I've never seen this 2-bedroom, 1 main room cabin. I've never seen this. Have you?
I'm not secluded in a forest, but my friend had a cabin up on Mount Hood, and it was like a rustic kind of like house.
This?
Yeah.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah, I don't think I've had any friends that had these rustic of cabins, but I feel like I've stayed in one or two or driven by some on the way to a less rustic cabin.
On the way to a less rustic cabin. I mean, at this point, everyone has been infected with the exception of Jeff. Jeff has noped out of here long ago, showing his true colors. And the police have been alerted to the presence of a kill-on-sight disease. Like, these kids all have basically a bounty on their head. And at this point, Ryder Strong kind of throws up on Winston, the cop's teenage girl party. I don't know.
Well, they make it a point that it's an underage drinking party.
Right. Yeah, this underage drinking party, he kind of throws up on everyone there. So ensuring that the disease will be spread and that cabin fever 2, spring fever, gets made.
Yeah.
The final kind of like hurrah in this movie for me was when he hits the deer, when Ryder Strong is in the car or in the truck and he hits the deer. That was so shocking. It was such a great jump scare. And then the
feet, yeah.
The flailing.
That's pretty great.
Feet. How did anything at the end of it? What at the end of this movie worked the best for you, Brian?
I think the ending of the movie is what made me up my score. Like, if we do things 1 to 5, but in your scale, I would have given this a 6 3 years ago when I watched it, and I upped it to 7. And I think that third act is what did it, because it was just like a bunch of shit just kept happening sequentially. The pacing was really good. Just, barfing blood on somebody, then the deer thing, just one more thing going wrong, feet in the face. It was so super chaotic, and I was a fan of that.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, it had strong ending. Yeah, that deer scene was pretty great. Just the effect in that. And just any movie like this should end with everyone dying. That's just how it should end.
For me, it's the callback with the old man at the Harbinger shop being like, "What's up, my N-words?" And that's such a...
That's great. And then it just shows that this is going to propagate across the country because they're just trucking out spring water that's implied that it's coming from that same reservoir with the dead guy.
I missed that. Somehow entirely
missed that. And like the lemonade that the little kids are serving is from that same lake or whatever. So like everyone there is going to get it. And then it shows a truck driving off with spring water on the side. So it's like, oh, this is like the beginning of a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, there you have it. Does anybody have any last words, final recommendations about Cabin Fever?
Did you guys notice at one point when they were talking about a character being in the woods, his wife was like, he wouldn't do that. He knows about the ordinance. So the locals seem to know about this disease. It's just kind of hinted at.
Interesting.
Oh. Here in Clark County, there's a secret, like a military range. It's in the woods on the east side of the county, and it's pretty big. And it's all fenced off with barbed wire. And, as a teenager, you drive over to your friend's house or something like that. You drive by this, and on the fence, it has all these signs that are like live ordnance testing, or, they just say creepy, weird military shit. And, your head starts working on that kind of thing. And yeah, I always have thought about, that's the first place my head goes when that kind of thing pops up in a movie, is like, these places are everywhere. They have facilities everywhere. They can, what are they doing in there? What kind of strange biological, I don't know, Anywho.
Butt rash experiments.
Well, that's impossible because I wasn't invited. So let's get into our game for today. Hey, do you have the Rotten Tomatoes drop?
Let me see.
This Rotten Tomatoes game is this is a game where we play 2 movies against each other. Okay, so we got we got two movies, and you're going to have to guess which one has the higher critic score. Not the audience score, the critic score. And you no cheating. You can't look it up. Oh, do you have it?
I have it.
Here we go.
Rotten.
Good job.
There we go. I did it.
Yeah, so we pit two movies against each other, you versus Bryce against each other, and you got to figure out which one has the higher Rotten Tomatoes score.
And do we get an extra point if we guess the right percentage?
Yes, if you guess the percentage on the head, then you get one extra point, and which ends up being a pretty big deal. So this episode's game is about movies. This is called Down with the Sickness. So this is all movies pertaining to disease and gross, nasty, infectious stuff. So let's get it on. This is horror movie talk versus horror movie club.
Yes.
So don't do bad, Bryce.
No.
No pressure though. Okay, so our first pairing is today's movie, Cabin Fever, versus 28 Days Later. And I think they came out about the same year, about 2003 or 4.
Who goes first?
Oh, well, the guest goes first in this game.
Okay. I'm going to say 28 Days Later as the higher score, and I'm going to guess 91.
Okay.
Nice.
What about you, Bryce?
I'll also go 28 Days Later, but I'll do 79.
Okay. You're both right, and the actual score is 87. So Brian was very, very close with that, with his guess of 91. But good job. Both on the board. Strong start. Okay. Our second pairing is the sequel, 28 weeks later, versus The Crazies from 1973.
73.
That's a Romero film, I believe.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'll say 28 weeks later, and I'll guess slightly higher than 28 days, so like 90.
Okay. And Brian, what are you going to say?
I'm going to go 28 weeks later as well, but I'm going to go a little lower at like 83%.
Again, Brian is closer. Yeah. So 28 weeks later got a 72, and The Crazies got a 69. So they're very, very close.
Really? I thought 28 weeks later was received better than 28 days later for some reason.
Sequels never are. It's just, I mean, I think you can kind of set your watch that every single reviewer is just going to be...
Oh my God, ew, David!
Just going to hate the sequel. Both still on the board, both tied up. Okay, so here we got 5 pairings total. So you have 3 more to differentiate yourselves. Okay, so we got 2008's Splinter. Have either one of you seen Splinter? Okay, so good. No one has any idea. And then we have versus 1985's The Stuff. Have either of you seen The Stuff?
No.
Brian has.
I've seen The Stuff, yes.
What did you think about it?
I thought it's a lot of fun.
Is that kind of a Blob kind of movie?
Yeah, it's very similar, but it's super schlocky and doesn't take itself super seriously. It's just a sleazy, entertaining 80s movie.
Nice. Okay, so I think it's Brian's turn to go first.
Boy, oh boy. The Stuff versus Splinter?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. I'm going to say Splinter is higher. I'm going to put that at like 74.
Okay.
I'm going to say The Stuff is higher and say like 66.
I have very bad news for horror movie talk.
Oh, no.
Very, very bad news. Brian is 100% correct on both. It is Splinter at 74 versus The Stuff got a 71. Oh. So he got 2 points on that, and you got none.
Damn it.
So we have Brian with 4 points, Bryce with 2. Bryce, you're gonna have to.
This is why they're ranked higher than us.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I was gonna make a comment about that. I was like, do you guys look at that too? I think we kind of bounce back and forth. One goes over the other sometimes. Yeah. Also,
it used to be, but now you guys are doing quite well.
Well, you know what, guys? You have probably a good chunk of your listeners who just skip the ads and go to Patreon, so your numbers might be artificially low.
I don't know. I appreciate the attempt, but but I think the game is really differentiating us right now. We're really getting to see why. And you guys, to be fair, you do a lot more research.
You guys put on a much better show than us. It's very entertaining and funny. We're a little slow. I think we make a good pair of two similar podcasts.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Climbing up the ranks together,
I like
hand in hand.
Being friends. Okay, so next pairing, Bryce, you're going to have to pull this out. We got Slither. Everybody's familiar with 2006 Slither. Mm-hmm. Versus Pontypool, which I think I started, but I don't think I... Have you seen Pontypool, Brian?
That's been on my watch list for years, and I still have never gotten around to it.
Have you seen it, Bryce?
No.
Okay. But you have seen
I would not have guessed it's about a disease from the name Pontypool.
I don't know what Pontypool means.
I thought it'd be like a period piece
about
British political drama or something.
About pools.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Slither versus Pontypool, and it's Bryce's turn to go first.
I'm going to go Slither.
Okay.
And I'm going to go 77.
Okay. What do you think, Brian?
Boy, this is tough. I feel like, having never seen Pontypool, that these two are going to be really close to each other, but that's neither here nor there. I guess Slither at 78%.
Going Price is Right strategy on me.
Hey, it's a strategy because it works.
$1, Bob.
So actually you're both right. It is Slither, and actually Brian was definitely right. They're very, very close. Slither came in at an 87 and Pontypool came at an 84. So no extra points awarded, but let's see here. So that puts Brian at 5 points and Bryce at 3. Here we go.
I'm always so pessimistic about Rotten Tomato scores for horror movies because I always feel like it's almost impossible to get over 80 for a horror movie, even if it's like undeniably good.
I mean, unless you're Jordan Peele. or Ari Aster.
On A24's production schedule.
Yeah, true. Okay, final pairing. You got to get, to tie it up, Bryce, you got to get them both right. So, but here, we got Brian going first, I believe, right?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Because he went first on this. Yeah, so that makes sense. Yes, it's Brian going first. So we got Contagion, which is, I think, Gwyneth Paltrow, 2010?
Yeah.
Or so. Have both of you seen that one?
I just watched it the last year.
It's daunting.
It's one of those movies that during the pandemic, it was like, this is the movie to watch. Like, you should be in the mood to watch this movie now. And wisely, they didn't put it on any streaming networks until like after the pandemic passed, because I'm sure they made a pretty penny on rentals on that movie.
Panic. And then that's versus Wreck, the Spanish 2007 film.
So not the remake.
No, Wreck, the Spanish one. Okay. Have you seen that one, Brian?
I've seen Wreck, but I never saw Contagion. Yeah, I remember when everyone was watching that, but yeah, too close to home. I wasn't really ready to sit down and watch it.
Yeah. Okay, Brian, what do you say? Contagion or Wreck?
Oh, man, this one's tough. Having not seen Contagion, I feel like I'm going to get this wrong, but Wreck did a lot of things right. I'm going to go with Wreck, and I'm going to put it at 84%.
Okay,
this is where I'm going to break through.
You got to get 2 points.
It's going to be Contagion. Contagion is not necessarily seen as just a horror movie. It's a
it's a drama. Yeah, it's like Heat.
Interesting.
Oh wait, no. I'm thinking of the one with Rain Man.
Yeah, that's called Outbreak.
Yeah, that's
Heat rash.
She's got a great rash.
Great rash.
I'm gonna say Contagion, and it's gonna be high. It's gonna be in the 90s, I believe. I'm gonna say 93.
Okay, so this is. I'm sorry to say, this is. Yeah,
damn it!
This is just Brian solidifying his supremacy. It is Wreck with a 90 versus Contagion with an 85.
Wow, I
cool. That's close.
Yeah, they're both pretty good. They both did pretty well.
See, I can see things that people would not like about Wreck, but I can't see what anyone would have a problem about Contagion. That's such a great movie.
Probably Gwyneth Paltrow. I mean,
right? Yeah, but she dies like almost immediately. Like even if you hated her, you'd be like, "Yes, finally."
Have you watched?
Let's mourn by lighting a vagina candle in her honor.
Brian, have you watched any of her Goop shows on Netflix?
No, all I hear is just negative things about her, but I don't really know what it's about. Can you guys enlighten me?
I think like Gwyneth, it's her association with her brand, which is Goop, and to me it's like a thing where she doesn't give a shit about that at all. It's like it's just, people are. It's kind of like Donald Trump. People are saying. A lot of people say, that I'm the greatest. It's like Gwyneth Paltrow says, like, yeah, a lot of people, get benefit from sticking jade eggs up their pussy, and who am I to tell them that they're wrong? And they sell like all this new age alternative bullshit for like exorbitant amounts of money, but all this certain cohort of women just eat that shit up. Like,
no pun intended.
Yeah, I think they actually sell shit for like $500 that you can eat.
She sells a candle that smells like her vagina.
Mm-hmm.
And
she really does. That's the truth.
Yeah, and it's like $135 for like a regular sized candle.
Yeah, wow, that's like some like OnlyFans type stuff.
Yeah, it's like that bathwater thing. It's like, I'll do anything to get some of your bathwater. It's like, ew. What was that, Belle Delphine?
It's kind of genius marketing, though, because who doesn't want to know what Gwyneth Paltrow's pussy smells like?
Someone just like hate buys it. Like, fine, I'm fucking curious.
Yeah.
Lavender. Wow.
I'll summarize it a little bit more cleanly.
Explains a lot. No wonder Harvey Weinstein was in.
Oh God.
Ew, David. Ew.
Yeah, I'll summarize it a little bit more cleanly here. Narcissism. Right. It's just narcissism. It's the weirdest, just like, look at me, looking at me. And it's like, oh, oof, this is creepy.
Yeah.
So, hey, Brian, thank you so much for stopping by and being part of our show. I really appreciate it. I've listened to you guys for a long time, and I super duper respect what you guys do over there at Horror Movie Club. How can people find your show and give it a listen?
Yeah, just any old podcast app. Just search Horror Movie Club, and that'll bring up our show. And give it a listen. Listen to a newer episode because the older ones really suck. And that's it. Thanks for coming out. You can make that a Wednesday pair, listeners, because we drop on Wednesdays too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're great, and you guys should definitely go check out their show because they've been doing it for as long as we have, longer than we have. And I definitely like what they do. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'm going to play us out with an episode of my other podcast, Hotline and Advice Podcast. This is a show that I do with my co-host out of the Bronx. His name's Babyface Billy, and we have a good time over there doing that. This episode that I'm going to play today is. We take calls from from people and try and give our advice. So this one is called Bram and the Ovipositor Dildo. Okay, so we're playing this out. You guys have a great week. Thank you for listening to our review of Cabin Fever. Oh, by the way, this was voted on by our patrons. So if you want to vote for one movie a month for us to review, that's how you get it done. And we'll see you next week.
All right, see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Chicken fried. Then I had to for badges frisbee. To teach me how to swallow pride. I took advice no fool would take. I got some habits I can't shake. I ain't the sharpest C100 in the sack, but I know enough to know if you're gonna be done, you gotta be tough.
Yeah! It's Hotline, an advice podcast. We bring you the best advice. You bring us all your questions, problems, and sadnesses. If you would like to bring us those sadnesses, you can do so by giving us a call at 929-356-6360. And leave us a nice message on our hotline. Or you can write us at hotlinepod@gmail.com. I am your host, David Day, and I'm kindly begging you to give us some nice reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Tell a friend about the show. I'm David Day, and across the whole country from me sits...
Man, David Day, so... I was making love yesterday. I was making love with my secretary.
Yeah.
And we were on the couch, we were kissing.
Right.
It was getting hot and heavy. And she asked me, I asked her, I said, you want to go upstairs? And she says, yes. Have you got any protection? And I asked her, why? What's up there? It's Babyface Billy! Say no to guns, it's summer fun!
Say no to guns, it's summer fun. Yeah, okay, so you guys, we got another great show for you today. What do we got here today, Babyface?
Well, this one has, they included photos here.
Okay.
You see them?
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah.
Can you describe to the listeners what these photos are?
Yeah, I know what these photos are. One is a hyper-realistic and yet somehow, unrealistic double dong. It is a pink color, so a white man's dick that leads into another dick. A double-tapered dick, if you will.
Wow.
And then the other one, I know what this is because I watch Channel 5, which is my favorite YouTube channel. This is an ovipositor dildo.
Wow. What the hell does that do, David Day?
Yeah, you put some pretend eggs in there, and then it injects them into your orifice.
Wow.
Yeah, deep within your pussy. Butt or throat.
In your throat?
I mean, you could put it anywhere, man.
You'll choke.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe it'll just deposit an egg deep within your esophagus.
Do not do that. You're going to choke. Please, do not do that.
Well, maybe that's your thing. What do we got? What do we got?
Let me read this.
Yeah.
It's hey hotline, I'm Abraham or Bram for short. I've never heard that shorthand name for Abraham.
Yeah, no.
For short. And I can't compete with my girlfriend's dildos. She's amassed a collection of dildos over the last month after I introduced them to the bedroom. I thought it would be hot for her to use one while I was fucking her with mine. Was it your dildo or your cock? What were you fucking her with?
No.
She was into it and now has purchased dildos of various sizes and shapes. These include lizard tail dildos, egg depositing dildos, horse-shaped dildos, and a holy grail double-ended 16-inch dildo.
The holy grail.
I'm all for her expressing herself, but I feel I can't measure up to these, especially the one that lays eggs. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Also, they're taking up way too much space in our closet. I used to use it as a pantry, and now I have an alien cock in there. It's getting harder explaining to my friends and my family why there's an egg depositor next to the Ritz crackers. Is there any way to convince her to lay off of these? I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. It's also the summer, so cleaning up after sex with all these accessories is a fucking hassle, slipping on lube and sweat.
Wow. Congratulations, Bram. I'd say congratulations. You have a horny girl on your hands, and anytime that's the situation, I whoop for joy. I myself am a horny girl, so I definitely love it when other horny girls are around. Yeah, this sounds great and also a little problematic, right? Sounds like she's a bit of a savage. Can't just be leaving this shit all over the place. That's just basic,
Next to the Ritz crackers?
Yeah, what the fuck, dude? Like, pick up a little bit. Like, just don't be a savage, you know? I think everything is good here. All of this is pretty good. Pretty good stuff, in my opinion. I just think it's, a matter of getting her to clean up after herself, which you can shame people into doing that, I think. Don't you think?
David, I don't think you're understanding this guy's point. You're not understanding where he's coming from.
Okay, help me understand.
There's a fear here that he's not measuring up to these dildos. Yeah, I think he feels nervous, rightfully so. Having sex with your girlfriend, she starts choosing the dildos over you, and hell, maybe she'll start choosing over men over you, since your dick doesn't have spikes and it can't lay eggs.
Yeah.
Is he overreacting? What's I understand where he's coming from. I think he's just afraid.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's with you. There's nothing you could do to compete with these things in terms of like the size of your dick or the shape of your dick. Like, you can't do anything about that, but you can derive a great deal of satisfaction and probably comfort from knowing that she chooses to be with you. That's her choice. She's like, I like this guy. I like being around him. She probably, your dick is probably one of the least important parts about you in most relationships. It's how you are to be around, if you're pleasant, if you're nice, if you're giving, if you're thoughtful. These kinds of things are what make you why she chose to be around you, to be with you. So this thing where you're like, I'm worried that the dildos are going to replace me. Those dildos are just pieces of plastic. They can't compete with you being kind and loving to her. So keep that up, and as long as you don't, as long as you do not get so needy or concerned that you need a lot of head petting regarding this dildo thing, then I think you don't got a lot to worry about. Now, it's also very valid for you to approach her and be like, these things make me feel however they make you feel, and then have her address that. That's, everybody needs to know, where they stand, and sometimes they need encouragement and that kind of thing. So, if this is a big issue for you, I'd say, talk to her about it. What do you think?
That was great advice, Dave.
Yeah?
It's very true. I think he should not be afraid of these dildos. They can't replace him unless if she gets an actual horse to fuck her. And that may kill her.
Yeah, no, don't.
I don't think an alien is going to come down and choose her out of the billions and billions of women on the planet to lay eggs into. So you don't have to worry about that one either. Lizards, quite frankly, unless if she's sticking a live lizard up her pussy, I don't think you got to worry about that either. It's when she whips out the BBC dildo that you should start worrying about being replaced by a black man. And, that's when a lot of these feelings, these racist feelings come about. And we are not, even though David Day's a red-blooded conservative American.
I am not.
We are not racist here, and we will not stand for racism. So if at that moment she pulls out that big black cock dildo and you start feeling a certain way, then I think you got to start thinking about yourself and how you feel about humanity in general.
Yeah, I mean, but don't you think he should, if he's feeling funky about this, you should, approach her and then tell her?
Of course. Approach her and tell her, I will not be replaced by the black man.
What?
Huh?
You just said, I will not be replaced by the black man. What was that? What was that?
That's in response to, I will not be replaced by an alien either, or a horse cock, or an actual horse. Okay. I will not be replaced by anything. You tell her that. And if you start to feel differently, you got to tell her you're feeling differently.
Yeah. I think you're going to be okay. What what's his name? Never can remember this stuff. Bram.
Abraham.
Bram, I think, quite frankly, he's kind of lucky. It sounds like she's a fucking horn dog. Right?
How does that work, getting an egg deposited into your vagina?
Well, look at it. You put the egg in the ovipositor. You could probably load it up a little bit like a Nerf gun, and then you squeeze at the base, and then it juts up there, blang.
Ugh. Ooh, yeah. And what do?
You poop it out. Or
you just leave it in there? How long do you leave it in there for?
Or you keep it in. Yeah, maybe you just keep it in there.
For how long?
I don't know. It's not my choice to make.
Wow.
Yeah. It's hot shit, though. Right?
Let me look up a video about this.
What if you're going down on, what if you're going down on a gal and a big old egg just slips on out of there?
Like into my mouth?
Or just hits your lips, it's just like, whoa! And you're like, whoa, what was that?
Well, it probably smells of just, alien lubricant.
Oh, man, I'm getting so jacked up right now. Oh, my God.
That's the ovipositor. I'm on the Pornhub here.
Way up inside me. Okay, if you'd like to give...
Holy hell!
If you'd like to give Hotline a call us
Stuffing young pussy with eggs.
929-356-6360, or drop us a line at hotlinepod@gmail.com.
Legal age pussy.
If you guys have advice about ovipositors, double-sided dildos...
She's got a great asshole, this girl.
Maybe...
Oh, my God, she's stuffing an egg up her pussy.
Then you go ahead and give us a call, and we'll do our best.
How many eggs you put it in your pussy, bitch?